let's hope with all that unruliness, all the shoutings out, and we'll have a quiet question time. Senator Hume.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. Today's monthly inflation figures confirm what Australians have been feeling, that after 3 Labor budgets, trimmed mean inflation has jumped to 4.4%, with fuel up 9.3%, electricity prices up 6.5% and housing costs up 5.2%. Only a month ago, Minister, you stated, and I quote, "This government's budget is an inflation-fighting budget. The targeted cost of living measures announced in the budget are expected to reduce inflation." And you went on to say that inflation now has a 3 in front of it. The forecast of Treasury has us reaching an inflation rate with a 2 in front of it through this year. You also stated that we stand by the inflation forecasts that are outlined in our budget. So all this rubbish that they go over about how we are exacerbating inflation, we have halved it. Minister, doesn't today's inflation data demonstrate that the Reserve Bank's assessments are more credible than yours?
The time for answering your question has expired. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, as Senator Hume would know, the RBA forecasts and the Treasury forecasts are very similar. And so I'll leave the bank to explain their forecasts, but we certainly support the Treasury forecast. And Senator Hume was quoting me in comments about our budget, and those comments that I made are accurate. That is, that the budget that we handed down will take pressure off inflation. That has been supported by analysis, and indeed in the release today by the ABS, where electricity prices did rise 6.5%, but without the energy bill relief, the ABS points out that they would have increased 14.5%. And indeed, on rent, if I use that example, rents have increased slower because of our investments in Commonwealth rent assistance. Again, measures which those opposite didn't support when we brought them in. And we are putting more work into rent and more effort into energy bill relief. It will reduce inflation and it will support households. And we are doing all of this because we do need to put downward pressure on inflation, but we also need to support households at the same time. That is the responsible, measured decisions that we took in our budget. They will put downward pressure on inflation. Inflation remains higher than we would like, and that is why our measures in the budget are targeted to putting downward pressure on inflation but supporting households with the main issue that they're facing at the moment, which is addressing cost of living pressures.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hume, first supplementary.
Thank you, Madam President. Minister, your latest budget was widely criticised by respected economists for its inflationary spending, with Chris Richardson saying at the time, "My big ask of the budget was that it didn't poke the inflationary bear. I don't think it passed that test." Will you finally now admit that after 3 budgets your government has failed the inflationary test and made life harder for Australians by keeping rates higher for longer?
Thank you, Senator Hume. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Thank you, President. No, I don't support the proposition being put by Senator Hume. Our budget is a measured, responsible budget making appropriate investments. Well, the challenge for those opposite is to outline the areas they do not support. Come in here and criticise the budget, but don't for a moment outline the areas they would cut. So you wouldn't give energy bill rebates. You wouldn't do extra investments on keeping medicines lower. The tax cuts, perhaps. All of those issues. Are they not supported? You don't support those any longer. What a surprise. This budget was specifically targeted not only at dealing with the inflation challenge in the economy, but also providing cost of living relief, because that is what all of our constituents are telling us is their #1 issue. So they didn't want the slash and burn. They didn't want the slash and burn. We all remember the 2013 budget.
We're investing. Senator Hume, second supplementary.
Thank you, Madam President. At the start of 2023, the Senate Cost of Living Committee was told by a local food charity operator that the #1 thing the government could do to get the cost of living under control would be to get interest rates down. Since then, rates have increased 4 times because the government has failed to get its spending under control. Minister, why is it that you only have spin and political tricks when Australians really need a credible path to get inflation under control?
Thank you, Senator Hume. Minister Gallagher.
In that question, and a lot of rubbish in that question, but on the question of food bank,
Minister
emergency relief, we have provided.
Please resume your seat. Order. Senator Smith, I've called the chamber to order. That includes you. Minister Gallagher.
On the issue around food banks and emergency relief, which I note Senator Hume outlined in her question, the important work that they do, this government has invested more into that sector to deal with the pressure, because they were, surprise, underfunded by those opposite, as is the entire non-government sector.
Senator Cash, I called you twice and you continued to be disrespectful. Minister, please continue.
As the entire non-government sector was when we came to government, where we found services had been not properly indexed, not properly supported, and we have had to fix that up as well. But I imagine that's an area that you would like to cut and slash, as you did when you were last in government. This budget is responsible, it's tackling inflation, and most importantly, it's providing much-needed relief to households that are under pressure, and we will continue to focus on our plan.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Grogan.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Minister Wong. Can the Minister please tell the Senate how Labor's tax cuts will assist taxpayers, all taxpayers, not just some, as was the Coalition's intended outcome? In particular, can the Minister explain the impact on low and middle income earners and the broader range of industries that will benefit? And if you can outline that for us in why the Albanese Labor government's #1 priority is providing cost of living support while putting downward pressure on inflation.
Thank you, Senator Grogan. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President, and I thank Senator Grogan, the fellow South Australian senator, for that question. And what I would say to her is this: in just 5 days' time, all Australian taxpayers will get a tax cut. All Australian taxpayers will get a tax cut in just 5 days' time, not just some Australian taxpayers, as those opposite had intended. Because those of us on this side, we want Australians to earn more and to keep more of what they earn. From Monday, every teacher will pay less tax. Every nurse, farmer, dentist, chef, bus driver, accountant, they will all pay less tax. 13.6 million Australians, and better yet, 11.5 million will get a bigger tax cut compared with what those opposite proposed. Our teachers, who we are so reliant on educating the next generation, 98% of primary school teachers across Australia will be better off under our package, 97% of secondary school teachers. Our hospitality workers, 97% of the chefs working across Australia will get a bigger tax cut. Sales assistants, 95% of sales assistants will get a bigger tax cut. Receptionists, 96% of them will get a bigger tax cut. Senator Stell, 97% of truck drivers will be better off. 91% of electricians will be better off. He's not here sorry, Tony. Senator Sheldon, 97% of truckies, 91% of electricians, and of course cleaners. For those of you UWU members, 96% of cleaners will be better off under our tax cuts compared to those. Those opposite don't understand the importance of providing cost of living relief to Australians who are doing it tough. That's what this government is doing.
Thank you, Senator Wong. Senator Grogan, first supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. 5 days, that's great news. Can't wait. Can the Minister please detail how, from the 1st of July, Labor's tax cuts will start to help women, particularly those in low-paid, female-dominated industries such as aged care and childcare, and also how the Albanese Labor government is helping people in these industries by backing wage rises?
Thank you, Senator Grogan. Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator Grogan, and as a former UW official, I know that questions about workers in the aged care and early childhood sector are very dear to your heart, as with many other of the senators on our side. I'm pleased that from next Monday, 9 out of 10 women will get a bigger tax cut than they would have had under those opposite. As I said yesterday, we know aspiration doesn't begin in the top tax bracket, and we also understand that women dominate low-paid, hard-working industries. 96% of early childhood educators are women, 81% of age and disability carers are women, 88% of registered nurses, and with Labor's tax cuts, almost all of those workers will get a bigger tax cuts. But of course, as Senator Grogan said, that isn't where it ends. Unlike those opposite, we support better wages for Australians, and under us, average wage growth is almost double what it was under the former government. As I said, we want Australians to earn more and keep more of what they earn, and we mean it.
Thank you, Senator Wong. Senator Grogan, second supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. The Minister mentioned that the vast majority of workers will be better off under Labor's tax policy, which of course is great news and, only 5 days to go. Can the Minister please provide further details on how this benefits Australian households?
Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. From the 1st of July, Labor's tax cuts will see families with children pocket an average of more than $3,000 next financial year, extra $60 a week in their pockets to help with the cost of living. Across all households, the average tax cuts will be more than $2,000 under Labor's plan. That's more than $40 a week. And of course, from next Monday, the Albanese Labor government is taking $300 off people's power bills. What have we got from those opposite? We have Mr Dutton's announcement. It's not a plan, it's an announcement, which is serving up the most expensive form of energy there is, and ask Australians to pay it. Well, I'll take that interjection from Senator Ruston. She said, just because you say it doesn't make it so. The problem with you on climate change and energy is the facts have never graced your door. That's the problem. You don't. You just say, those facts are not convenient.
Thank you, Minister.
So we're going to pretend they're not
has
there.
Expired. Senator Reynolds.
Thank you very much, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. Minister, last month you stated this, that the targeted cost of living measures announced in the budget are expected to reduce inflation, with energy bill relief expected to directly reduce inflation by 0.5 percentage point in 2024. However, today's monthly inflation figures reveal electricity prices rose 6.5% in the 12 months to May, and that now, after 2 years of Labor, Australians are paying 21.1% more for their energy bills. Will you now admit that you were wrong?
Thank you, Senator Reynolds. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank the senator for the question. And no, I was not wrong in those comments, and they are outlined in the budget. And I would just say, that we are talking the budget that kicks in on the 1st of July, 24-25. The measures that I was speaking about then relate to that period of time, and it's very clear in the budget papers about the forecasts or the estimates that Treasury have attached to those measures that put downward pressure on inflation. And they are the energy bill relief, which will kick in from the 1st of July, and the Commonwealth Rent Assistance, which will also be an additional payment in the 24-25 financial year. But it's very clear, even from the data today, the monthly data, which does move around a bit, that the measures that we have already put in place, the energy bill relief and the work that we did on Commonwealth Rent Assistance last year, has reduced the increases that people would have otherwise experienced. And those opposite voted against them, and they criticised them, and in their continued attack on the budget, they say that that was unnecessary spending. Well, we don't agree with that. We think those measures were targeted, they were appropriate, and that's why we're building on them in the next budget, which will come into effect on the 1st of July, in conjunction with the tax cuts that we've reshaped so that they better reflect or they better meet the needs right across the income bracket brackets, and indeed in particular cohorts like low-paid workers and women who will get those tax cuts from the 1st of July. But I completely stand by the budget that the Treasurer delivered and the forecast of those measures and their reduction or their reducing the impact on inflation by the forecast that is outlined in those budget papers.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Reynolds, first supplementary.
Thank you very much, President. Minister, the economist Warren Hogan said today, he said this: "No one wants to hear it or believe it, but it looks like underlying inflation is picking up in Australia in 2024. The 4.35% cash rate won't get the job done on inflation, and there's a $40+ billion fiscal bomb about to hit in a few days' time." So, Minister, how can you possibly claim, as you just have, that your budget puts downward pressure on inflation when Australians are now facing the prospect of another interest rate hike?
The question has expired, Minister.
Well, the bank will make decisions about the setting of the cash rate, and I don't comment on that. In relation to the figure that you've just used for the impact on the 1st of July, am I led to believe now that the opposition does not support the tax cuts? I think the figure was being used as though it was going to be directly that if tax cuts come in on the 1st of July, what you were arguing is then interest rates will go up because of the tax cuts, and that led me to believe that you now don't support the tax cuts. Is that right? Because you can't criticise it. You can't criticise it and still support it, or you don't support it now. Well, I think people will be very interested in that. The measures that we are putting in place that come into effect on the 1st of July, including the energy bill rebates, will come in over the 12 months of the financial year. They are going to be delivered in a way that makes sure that people are getting that relief, but it's not coming in one hit
thank
at
you,
one
Minister.
time.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Reynolds, second supplementary.
Thank you very much. Minister, very glad you mentioned energy prices, because I want to ask you, with electricity up 21.1% and gas up 22.2% under Labor, so when can Australians expect to see their energy bill drop permanently by the $275 a year you promised 97 times ahead of the last election and just referenced again now?
Thank you, Senator Reynolds. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, and I thank Senator Reynolds for the question. Well, though we'll see the results of this government's measured, responsible plan of rolling out renewables over the long term ease their energy bills, and we know that because renewables firmed up with storage and gas is the cheapest form of energy transition. Unlike what they will know is that under the risky plan that's been outlined by Peter Dutton, Mr Dutton, it seems by mistake in an interview where he walked away from the 2030 targets, where he's going to walk away from the 2050 targets, to adopt the most expensive form of energy generation in a way that nobody can describe, none of you can describe it here, including the cost, not only what it will cost to build or how much it will contribute to the energy grid, but also what it means for energy bills, so what households will pay for Mr Dutton's risky plan.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hanson-Young, before I call you, I will acknowledge the presence in the chamber of former Greens Party Senator Robert Sims. So welcome. Senator Hanson-Young. I have called you, sorry. Yep.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Environment Minister, Senator Wong. The Environment Minister, Tanya Plibersek, has just approved Gina Rinehart's Queensland coal seam gas mine out to 2080, putting hundreds of hectares of koala habitat and billions of litres of water at risk. What does the minister care more about? Letting Gina Rinehart profit from another climate-wrecking coal seam gas mine, or protecting our endangered koalas?
Thank you, Senator Hanson-Young. Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator, and I also welcome Mr Sims back to the Senate. I can indicate that the Albanese government and Minister Plibersek makes decisions in accordance with the facts and national environmental law, and that is what happened in this case and in every case. We will continue to consider each project on a case-by-case basis under the law. The project will primarily contribute domestic gas supply for households and Australian manufacturing, including for glass, bricks, cement and food packaging. I understand the approval comes with conditions to protect nature, including strict limits on habitat loss. Well, yeah, I'm sure you. Well, this is what.
Order, Senator Hanson-Young.
You could have a discussion with Senator Faruqi about koala habitat. Yeah. We are ticking off renewable energy projects at record rates. We are
Order on my left. Order. Senator Cash. Order. Order on my left. Minister Wong. Just a moment, Minister Wong. Senator McKim.
Thank you, President. On a point of order, Senator Wong has made a personal reflection on Senator Faruqi, and I ask her to withdraw.
Senator McKim, there was no personal reflection. Thank you. Minister Wong, please continue.
I'm always happy to withdraw. I withdraw. And I look forward to similar standards of courtesy from Senator Faruqi when she speaks about me personally, as I'm sure she will show in the future. So, Senator, what I would say to you, and I can list the range of renewable energy projects that we have also approved at this point, I would say to you that Minister Plibersek makes decisions in accordance with the law and the facts of the case. That is what occurred on this occasion.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hanson-Young, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Habitat destruction from land clearing and the climate crisis are the biggest threats to already endangered koalas. With their numbers—
Senator Hanson-Young, please resume your seat. Order on my left. Seriously. Order. Order. Senator McKenzie, how does me calling order not apply to you? Senator Hanson-Young, would you begin your question again, please, because I was not able to hear a single word of it. Senator Hanson-Young, please resume your seat. Senator Cash, I have called you a number of times today. I've lost count. I'm asking you— I want to hear Senator Hanson-Young's question. She is entitled to ask it in silence, and Senator Wong is entitled to give her response in silence. Senator Hanson-Young.
Thank you, President. I would ask that the clock be reset.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Thank you. Habitat destruction from land clearing and the climate crisis are the biggest threats to already endangered koalas, with their numbers declining by 50% in Queensland since 2001.
I'm sorry, please. Senator Cash, seriously, how many times have I had to call you to order? Senator Hanson-Young, please continue.
Koalas have declined by 50% in Queensland since 2001. When will the Labor government stop approving the destruction of koala habitat and start protecting them from extinction? How many more photo ops will the minister have before she does something?
Thank you, Senator Hanson-Young. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President, and I'll try and respond to the question and not the personal suggestions about Ms. Plibersek. The senator is right. Senator Hanson-Young is right. Habitat is one of the key risks facing koalas, and that is why the minister has taken action in relation to safeguarding koalas and koala habitat. The advice I have in the brief for me is different to, I think, what you said in your primary, Senator Hanson. I'm advised that the approval includes strict conditions. No koala breeding or foraging habitat can be cleared. That is the advice that I have. I think many of the propositions obviously don't agree with the attack on the minister, but many of the propositions about the risk-facing koalas, you're correct. The advice I have in this brief is as I've outlined.
Senator Hanson-Young, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. We've got an Environment Minister who continues to approve new coal and gas mines, polluting the environment and the destruction of habitat and native forest logging. When will we have an Environment Minister who actually protects the environment?
Thank you, Senator Hanson-Young. Minister Wong. Senator Ruston. I did call you, yes.
Sorry, apologies. No, I actually didn't hear her call me, nor do I think that the person setting the clock. It's on 0. Thank you. No, I don't want unlimited time, but I think 0 time is probably a bit unreasonable. That's all. Senate. No, I think. No, Senator Hanson, you don't. I heard the range of assertions, political assertions in the question. I don't think they need repeating. And you could give a speech after question time if you want to do it. What I would make the point is the minister applies the law that this parliament has passed. That's the first point. Secondly, the minister has been ticking off renewable energy projects at record rates and is outstripping coal and gas projects, to which the senator refers, by around 7-1, and record numbers of renewable energy projects in the approval pipeline. We have greenlit 54 renewable projects in just over 2 years, enough to power more than 3 million Australian homes. The minister is doing an outstanding job, and I appreciate that you have to make political statements, but the facts simply don't support them.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Billick.
My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. It's clear that helping Australians with the cost of living is the government's #1 priority, and I was pleased to see last month's budget included a comprehensive cost of living plan that provided responsible relief in a way that eases pressure on Australians and helps Australians keep more of what they earn. Can the minister provide further detail on this plan to the Senate and how it will ease cost of living pressures for every Australian?
Thank you, Senator Billick. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Billick for her question and for her hard work that she does in the beautiful state of Tasmania, representing all of the people of Tasmania. Today, we can assure Australians that with only 5 days to go, that this government is totally focused on making sure that we are addressing cost of living pressures where we can, whilst easing and putting downward pressure on inflation. So in addition to the tax cuts, President, the budget delivered a further $7.8 billion in cost of living relief. So we have the tax cuts from the 1st of July, 5 days to go, 13.6 million Australians, not just some taxpayers, but all taxpayers. 84% of taxpayers will be better off under our tax plan. We have the $300 in energy bill relief for every household in Australia and $325 for 1 million small businesses. We have a freeze on PBS medicines. We know that medicines can really hit the hip pocket, particularly for those that are on long-term medications and have to go and get those scripts filled every couple of months or every month, depending on the medication. So putting, again, more pressure on making sure that medicines stay affordable, increasing rent assistance by a further 10%, building on the 15% that we did in our last budget. We also have debt relief coming in for students to deal with the indexation arrangements of the HELP and HECS debt. We've got the paid super on government-paid parental leave. The bill will be coming. And it will take pressure off debt. It will provide debt relief for students, and it is, as Senator Henderson knows, retrospective, building more homes for Australians and making the food and grocery code mandatory. All of these measures together are focused on easing cost of living pressures.
Minister. Senator Billick, first supplementary.
Thanks for that comprehensive answer, Minister. The job of fighting the inflation challenge is not over. It's good to hear about the government's efforts to drive down inflation and take the pressure off household budgets. Can the minister update the Senate on how last month's budget will help address inflation?
Thank you, Senator Billick. Minister Gallagher.
And thank you, President. Thank you, Senator Billick. Well, inflation is still too high, and we understand that people are still under the pump and feeling the impacts of those price pressures, but we are making progress. Our policies in the budget will take 3/4 of a percentage point off inflation this year and 1/4 percentage point next year. Treasury are forecasting that we could get back to the inflation target sooner than we had expected, but we understand that people are under pressure, which is why, and again confirmed by the ABS data released today, that some of these inflation and those price pressures would be even higher had we not taken the action we took in the last budget. Well, if you don't believe that, you don't believe the ABS data then. And we're delivering more rent assistance, new energy bill relief to every household and 1 million small businesses in the budget.
Please resume your seat. Please resume your seat. Senator Ruston, I'm going to ask you to withdraw.
Withdraw.
Thank you. And Minister Gallagher, it's not appropriate. It has always been my practice to request, when I ask senators to withdraw, to not then make further political points by repeating offences, and that cuts both ways. Please continue. Did you wish to continue, Minister Gallagher? Thank you. Senator Billick, second supplementary.
Thank you very much. Can the minister please outline the pressures Australians would be under without the government's investments in responsible cost-of-living relief? How does this government's responsible approach contrast with Peter Dutton's risky plans, and how would they impact the economy?
Senator Billick, I do remind you to refer to members in the other place by their correct titles. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Billick for the question. Well, we are seeing inflation moderate, and we'll see in the monthly data we do see some movement around, but we are seeing over in the quarterly data, and certainly from its peak in the December data, where it peaked at 8.4%, we are seeing good progress on inflation moderate, but we want to see more. We want to see more, and that's why we have been focused on making sure that we've got that cost of living relief, that we are seeing job creation even in these difficult times, that we've got wage increases happening, that we're putting downward pressure on inflation by delivering 2 budget surpluses. That hasn't been done for a while, has it? And I note that that has been welcome. But this starts in stark contrast to the risky offering of those opposite, which is to tear up all the work that we've been doing and to put in place a risky, uncosted plan that's going to drive up energy costs across the country.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Roberts.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Finance, Senator Gallagher. Minister, if a salary rises from $495,000 to $719,000, what percentage increase is that?
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. And I'm not sure under which part of the portfolio this comes, but I think it relates to the Governor-General's salary, the bill that this Senate passed this morning. The point I was making there was it is misleading to suggest that a salary is increasing from the figure that you have used, Senator Roberts, to that higher figure, because what it does not take into account is the other income streams that were available to former Governor-Generals. So this is an adjustment, yes, but it's an adjustment being made because the incoming Governor-General does not have a military pension that will supplement the income stream, and that the Governor-General's salary has been traditionally linked to the salary of the Chief Justice of the High Court, and that salary is determined by the Remuneration Tribunal. So I think the point you were making this morning in debate, I would argue, and the point that Senator Waters surprisingly was making in debate, was that this was some significant pay increase in the order of 43%, when that is not correct. Former Governor-Generals have had 2 income streams, particularly if they've been in receipt of a pension, This legislation we passed today was to ensure that a commensurate salary be provided for an incoming Governor-General who only has one income stream. And so it is not accurate to say that a position has had an increase of that order. It is simply not correct. It is misleading. It is disingenuous, and it's seeking a popular headline, which I agree are easy to get if people don't understand the detail that underpins that decision.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Roberts, first supplementary.
Thank you. The answer is 43.2%. Governor-General Jeffrey's salary was $365,000. Quentin Bryce, Labor's last appointment, was paid $394,000, $20,000 less than the then salary of the High Court Chief Justice. General Cosgrove was paid $425,000. Then General Hurley was paid $495,000. Minister, how much was outgoing Governor-General Hurley's salary reduced for his military pension?
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Gallagher.
I don't have those figures at hand, but I do understand that the salary that has been agreed to and passed by this parliament this morning, by this chamber and the House earlier in the week, is in line with the salary that the current Governor-General has been earning with the income streams available to him. It might be slightly adjusted for the fact that it lasts over 5 years, because once the Governor-General commences in a role, no further adjustments can be made to salary, but it is in line with what His Excellency Governor-General Hurley is earning at this point in time.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Reynolds, second supplementary. Beg your pardon, Senator Roberts, second supplementary.
The incoming Governor-General's salary is now $70,000 above the High Court Chief Justice's salary. The Chief Justice gets, as you said, periodic increases to adjust for inflation. The Governor-General does not. Noting today's inflation announcement shows inflation increasing again, this huge pay rise seems designed to compensate Sam Mostyn for inflation and has nothing to do with military pensions. Minister, earlier today, did you mislead the Senate to cover up the real reason for this huge pay increase, surging inflation?
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. And I can assure Senator Roberts, no, I did not mislead the parliament, and I have been clear. Indeed, I was clear in the last answer that I gave that there is some adjustment for future increases based on the fact that the Chief Justice has salary determined annually by the Remuneration Tribunal. The Governor-General's salary cannot be increased by that, so there is work done about, based on some analysis about what that should appropriately be. But no, it's not based on today's inflation forecast, and it's incorrect to continue to say that it has nothing to do with the fact that His Excellency currently is in receipt of a military pension in addition to the salary that he draws as Governor-General. And the simple reality is the legislation that passed this chamber addresses that fact, that there is one income stream, and this allows them to be paid in accordance with what's currently being paid.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Bragg.
Thanks very much, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. Many Australians are looking to purchase first homes, and they are losing out under this government, with today's inflation figures showing that housing is up 5.2% in the 12 months to May, and that rents are up 7.4% for the year as well. According to the ABS, a total of 172,000 new dwellings were constructed in 2023. That compares to 220,000 under the coalition in 2018. Minister, why is Australia going backwards on housing construction and approvals under Labor?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, firstly, I don't accept that the former government did enough on housing, as implied by Senator Bragg's question there. I don't think he did enough on new housing. I don't think he did enough on working with states and territories. I don't think he did enough with social housing, with affordable housing, with making sure that the homelessness agreement was funded properly or indexed properly, because you didn't do any of those things. Under the leadership of Minister Collins, we have been addressing those things one by one. She's been doing doing an incredible job, and we agree that we need to build more houses. We do, and we had this long exchange in estimates, which I enjoyed immensely around housing, and we were clear. We want to see more dwellings built. We want to remove some of the barriers that are preventing housing construction in this country, in particular working with states and territories and council about some of the planning barriers that exist that have been, are not allowing housing to be built as quickly as we would like. And, of course, we could go through all of the investments that we have made in other areas of housing. So it's not just new housing to allow for first home ownership, but it's also what we do at the social and affordable end. It's the social housing accelerator. It's the Housing Australia Future Fund, which will get programs out as soon as it's worked through them, but there is more to be done. We're not pretending that. There is enormous pressure in the housing market. We want to make sure that we are building more. We've got our target that we'll kick in on the 1st of July, and we will work with states and territories to meet that target and make sure that the Commonwealth is doing everything it can to increase the supply of housing in this country.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Bragg, first supplementary.
Thank you. The National Housing Supply and Affordability Council has said in its recent report that we will see just 900,000 new houses built by 2029. That is 300,000 short of the target of 1.2 million as set by your government. Minister, how can the government continue to claim that it will meet these targets if we're going backwards on construction and your own advisory council says it won't be achieved?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Gallagher.
And thank you. And I would also add in to this and start my answer with that the chair of the Supply Council has also said that the 1.2 million homes target is suitably ambitious and clearly focuses attention on improving supply. That is also advice. I mean, the fact that we have a council, the fact that we have a report looking at housing supply across the country shows this government demonstrates this government's determination to increase supply of housing, because this is the work that wasn't done under the former government, and to pretend that the housing pressures arose overnight or arose in the last year or 2 years is simply incorrect. It's not true, and it is as a result, and you have to take some responsibility for this, maybe not you, Senator Bragg, because you weren't in the executive, for the lack of attention that was placed on housing by the former government. You didn't even have a minister for housing. There was no minister in the ministry until right towards the end, when you realised you'd stuffed it up.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Bragg, second supplementary.
No, I think we're all happy with that. Now, the New South Wales Premier Chris Minns has said that New South Wales, which is the largest state in the Commonwealth, will not achieve its share of the target, will not meet its target. So, Minister, when will the government be honest about its claim on housing supply, given the biggest state in the Commonwealth has said that its portion of the target will never be met?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, our target under Homes for Australia, the $1.2 million home target, comes in on the 1st of July. Now, it seems that the most pressing issue for the opposition is whether or not we're going to meet a target that hasn't even started yet. Okay? It comes in on the 1st of July. We've done the lead-in work. We're working with the states and territories. And I note in the New South Wales budget last week the historic investment in housing that underpinned that budget. It was essentially the centrepiece of the New South Wales government budget, was its focus on housing. Very welcome, and we would like to see more of that where it's possible. We don't tell the states how to allocate their budgets, but we certainly welcome that investment, and we will work with the New South Wales government as we will work with every government. We don't have a plan to override them and take over their energy systems like someone else does. We will work with them in cooperation to deliver the housing that this country needs.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Thorpe.
Thank you, President. My question is for the Minister representing the Minister for Health, Minister Gallagher. Due to the military base in Jervis Bay and the extensive firefighting training using dangerous human-made forever chemicals known as PFAS, the neighbouring Aboriginal community of Wreck Bay has had to deal with extensive water and soil contamination, resulting in a massive cancer cluster in a small community. How often is the PFAS content in the local Mary Creek being assessed, and how is the community being informed of the level of toxicity?
Minister.
Thank you, President, and I thank Senator Thorpe for the question, and I will have to come back to you with an answer on that. I am aware of the research that's been done around the harmful effects of PFAS, both as the occupational impacts of PFAS and some of the impacts, the health impacts, consequently of living close to contaminated sites. And I think we are learning more and more about PFAS as more research is done into it. So I am aware of that and some of the concerns, particularly around cancer clusters relating to PFAS. In relation to Wreck Bay, I will have to come back to you. I'll see if something that's just been handed to me provides me with any further information. I'm not sure it does around Wreck Bay, but I can understand if there is a cancer cluster there that people are genuinely concerned, and I would take further advice on what information and support can be provided.
Senator Thorpe, first supplementary.
President, and thank you, Minister. Health research clearly shows that there is no safe limit for PFAS in water. Australian limits of PFAS chemicals are often hundreds of times higher than in Canada and the US. Does the government plan to lower the limit of these toxic chemicals in our drinking water?
Thank you, Senator Thorpe. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Thorpe for the question. And again, I might need your indulgence to come back to provide you with some further information if I am able to, because I think that would I need it basically, because I am aware that there is more understanding of the impacts of PFAS chemicals, and I think the prevalence of it. I think it previously had been seen to be largely on defence sites and in areas like that, but I think it is more. It's certainly people are becoming aware that it is more prevalent, but I will take some further advice on the issues you raise about contamination and water.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Thorpe, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. So, does the government plan to ban all PFAS chemicals, given there is extensive evidence confirming their harmful impacts on everyone's health and this whole country's environment?
Thank you, Senator Thorpe. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I will correct this if I need to. I am not aware of plans to ban, but I am aware that there is a standard which manages the industrial chemicals environmental management standard, and it provides a national approach to managing chemical use, storage, handling and disposal of industrial chemicals such as PFAS. But if there is further information I can provide, I can also, in relation to your earlier question on drinking water, I am advised that the NH and MRC is progressing an independent review of the Australian health-based guidance values for PFAS in the Australian drinking water guidelines. The review will consider recent guidance and reviews from international and national jurisdictions and determine whether they are suitable to adopt or adapt the Australian context. So that is the NH and MRC is doing some work on that, Senator Thorpe, but I will come back for more information.
Senator Ghosh.
My question is to the Foreign Minister, Minister Wong. The Albanese government has worked over the last 2 years to bring Julian Assange home, and I understand that Mr Assange is finally on his way back to Australia. Can the Minister update the Senate on Mr Assange's situation and the support being provided by the Australian government?
Thank you, Senator Ghosh. Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator Ghosh. And obviously Senator Ghosh, as a very credentialed lawyer, could probably explain much more clearly than I the details of the US legal system, but I will do my best. What I would say is Mr Assange's case has dragged on for too long and he should return home to Australia. And that has been the position I have articulated in this chamber and publicly, and the Prime Minister has articulated very clearly publicly. I am pleased to say that earlier today a plea arrangement between Mr Assange and the United States Department of Justice was finalised in Saipan. It ends a long-running judicial process in the United Kingdom, and Mr Assange is now on his way home to Australia and to his family. These are obviously welcome developments, but this is not something that happened just in the last 24 hours. It has taken a careful, patient and determined approach. It has been complex work and it has been considered work. The Prime Minister, the Attorney-General and I have consistently advocated for Mr Assange's case to be brought to a conclusion. Early today, Mr Assange's lawyer, Ms. Jennifer Robinson, remarked on the Prime Minister's role in this, thanking him for his statesmanship, his principled leadership and his diplomacy which made this outcome possible. The Prime Minister was foremost in Australia's efforts. He was ably supported by Australian officials and by our Ambassador to the United States, Mr Rudd, and our High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Mr Stephen Smith, who have worked over many months to make today's outcome possible. Can I publicly express our appreciation to the United States and to the United Kingdom for their efforts to find a pathway that met the interests of all parties. We will continue to provide consular assistance to Mr Assange, and I want to recognise the efforts of DFAT and other government officials who have worked with Mr Assange and his legal team to ensure his smooth return to Australia this evening.
Expired. Senator Ghosh, first supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. It has been more than a decade since this matter began. Can you please outline the work the Albanese government has done to bring this outcome about?
Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator Ghosh. For the last 2 years, the Australian government has engaged in careful, patient and determined efforts to achieve this outcome. We used all appropriate channels to support this outcome. As I said, the Prime Minister has led these efforts and has personally raised Mr Assange's case with both President Biden and Prime Minister Sunak, and we acknowledge their engagement on this. I have been consistent and clear in this place that resolution would only be possible after legal processes had concluded. In fact, on a number of occasions, and I note that Senator Shoebridge has left the chamber, when Senator Shoebridge was accusing me of not doing enough on this case, I made the point to him and to others in the Greens how these matters had been resolved in a comparable case, as was the case here again. Obviously, we have approached this way, this issue calmly and consistently.
Has expired. Senator Ghosh, second supplementary.
How is the Albanese government's persistent diplomacy securing good outcomes for Australians?
Minister Wong.
When it comes to securing good outcomes for Australians who find themselves in difficult legal circumstances or detained overseas, the approach we have taken is to pursue outcomes. We haven't taken the approach of seeking headlines or shouting from the rooftops. I know that there are some who seek to do that. We have taken the view that persistent diplomacy is the way we secure good outcomes, and obviously Cheng Lei, Sean Turnell, Chow Van Kam and Ken Elliott have all returned to Australia in the past 2 years, and I do pay respect to Foreign Minister Payne, who also engaged in persistent diplomacy on this. We use the appropriate tools of diplomacy and statecraft, and we know there is more to do. Australia will continue to support our compatriots who are detained overseas, and again I recognise the good work that DFAT and other agencies do in this regard.
Senator Hughes.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. Minister, does the total cost of Labor's Powering Australia plan include the decommissioning of turbines, solar panels and batteries at the end of their life?
Minister Gallagher.
Well. We start as we finish on costings. Yeah, don't worry. You can only ask about our costings because you have none. You have none. Honestly, in the week that we've had, your question is about costings of the energy transition. Okay, interesting. Our costings.
Minister Gallagher, please resume your seat. Senator Hughes.
So we're 25% through the response, and it's a yes or no question.
I'm not sure what the point of order was there, but the minister.
5% through, just for the math side of things, through the response time.
Thank you.
And
Thank you,
it's a
Senator
yes or no
Hughes.
question.
Thank you, Senator Hughes. And the minister is being relevant. I will continue to listen carefully. Senator Hughes, may I remind you once again that when you raise a point of order with me, it is not a debate. I've ruled, whether you agree or not, you don't continue in a debate with me. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you very much. And to Senator Hughes, on the cost issue, and we look forward to the costs when they come. When you've worked it out, your big announcement, the big announcement that Mr Dutton accidentally made to the in a newspaper interview. We heard about it. We read about it. Where did that 2030 target go?
Senator McGrath.
Oh, it's just gone. And now we know Senator Canavan's going to get rid of the 2050 target.
Minister, please resume your seat. I'm just waiting for order. Thank you, Senator Hughes.
Relevance. We're now 50% through the answer, and the question was very clearly if their plan includes the cost of decommissioning.
Thank you,
and
Senator
yes or
Hume.
no, and
Senator
we've gone
Hume.
nowhere near it.
Senator Hume, please resume your seat. Thank you. I will draw the minister back to the question, but when you raise on a point of order, there is no need to repeat the question. Minister Gallagher.
Have you called me? Oh, yes. Thank you, yes. President.
And I've brought you back to the question.
And as I answered in the answer earlier in the week, we have a budgeted plan that's backed by the AEMO Integrated Systems Plan, which did look at the total cost out to 2050 of the generation, storage and transmission of renewable energy, and the figure that's being applied to that by AEMO is, under the new release of the ISP today, $122 billion. In this budget, we are investing an extra $22.5 billion over the next decade to help make Australia a renewable energy superpower, including $3.2 billion for ARENA, $1.7 billion for Future Made in Australia Innovation Fund, $6.7 billion for hydrogen production tax credits, $1.3 billion for Hydrogen Head Start, building on the $2 billion from our last budget, the Capacity Investment Scheme.
Minister. Time for answering has expired. Senator Hughes.
Well, I must say I'm not sure how hydrogen impacts the cost of decommissioning turbines and solar panels at the end of their life, but we live in hope. How many wind turbines, solar panels and batteries installed today as part of Labor's Powering Australia plan will reach the end of their lifespan by 2050 and require replacement?
Thank you, Senator Hughes. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President, and I thank Senator Hughes for the question. And I would say, how many nuclear reactors are going to be required, and what is the percentage of nuclear energy on the grid? What is it? Because we heard there's lots of them.
Please.
How many?
Minister
you
Gallagher.
couldn't answer.
Senator Wong and Senator McKenzie. Senator Wong. Senator Hughes.
Relevance. It's not a question about anything other than the replacement by 2050. I'll give you a tip, it's 100%.
Senator Hughes, resume your seat. Senator Hughes, you rose on a point of order. I reminded you the last time you rose on a point of order not to go beyond the point of order, and you did it again. I will draw the minister to your question. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. So I guess it is a reasonable question when you release a nuclear reactor plan to be able to say how many nuclear reactors you're going to need. And what we saw on Sunday is not only are they the 7 sites that have been identified, but then on those sites they could have multiple reactors. Maybe you could have 4. Maybe you could have 5. Who knows?
Minister Gallagher.
You don't know yet.
Minister Gallagher, please resume your seat. Senator Hughes, I haven't called you, and the reason I haven't called you is I'm waiting for order in the chamber, and then I'll call you. Senator Hughes.
Relevance. The question did not use the word nuclear, yet the
Senator
minister's
Hughes.
barely said anything
Thank you, Senator Hughes. Thank you, Senator Hughes. Order. Order. I will remind the minister of your question. Minister Gallagher.
We back renewables. We back solar. We back wind. We back the turbines. We back the panels, and we will continue to. And we will need firming fuel. What we won't do is come out with a half-baked plan. It's not even half-baked. It's a minusculely baked plan that delivers no idea on cost, size, when they would actually deliver the energy or anything else.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hughes, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Minister, is the government deliberately ignoring the costs associated with replacing ageing renewables to make its uncosted energy plan more palatable for voters? If not, why can't you provide an answer?
Thank you, Senator Hughes. I haven't called the minister yet because I'm waiting for silence. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Our plan is costed. It's clear in the budget paper. And I know you can't stand it because you don't have the detail and you want to divide. But let me ask a question. Just as I finish, let me ask a question. How much do you think it would cost to decommission a nuclear reactor? I don't know. Is that included in your plan? Oh, no, because you haven't got any cost. And where would you put the waste? And is it a Coke can? I don't think it's a Coke can. Does anyone think it's a Coke can? Nobody thinks it's a Coke can. It's a lot of Coke cans, really, isn't it? So how much does it cost to decommission a nuclear reactor? And, you know, you can't answer because you don't know how much a nuclear reactor...
Order. Order on my left. Order. Did you wish to continue, Senator Gallagher? Minister Wong.
President, I ask that further questions be placed on notice.
Oh, hello.
Hey, President.